Throughout Bruce's journey, he and the Hulk are shown to have an uneasy coexistence, one that starts unraveling as early as Avengers 2. Whether this is due to poor writing, lack of planning, or the MCU not being all that invested in the character doesn't really matter. What does matter is that by the time Infinity War rolls around, this uneasy coexistence between them has completely broken down, to the point where Hulk refuses to emerge. I have no idea why this scene was even considered for the film. What possible reason would Hulk have to agree to merge with Bruce at this stage? Thanks to Infinity War and previous entries, we know their relationship is the most strained it has ever been. Until you stop to consider anime logic. As a connoisseur of only the finest anime, this is the exact kind of friendship is magic you'd expect an underpaid writer who's finished typing his 7th to come up with. Trust me, I've watched an unhealthy amount of anime. I can picture it now, the newly merged Smart Hulk bursting out of his Hulkbuster armor, having ascended to a higher form of being, thanks to the power of friendship, going toe-to-toe with Thanos only for Big Brain to realize this is no way to save the world. Activating his newly acquired Talk No Jutsu, he persuades Thanos to give up on his mad dream. Convinced by his new bestie, friendly Thanos redirects his vast knowledge and resources toward finding a better way to save all the galaxies. Yay! Universe saved, Tony Stark lives, and the audience learns a valuable lesson. Friendship is all that matters. At least that's what I wrote down. I do appreciate whoever took another look at that scene, reread the script and went, who wrote this? Fire that person immediately. Endgame takes a shot at improving this. We get a quick non-explanation from Bruce, which most people are familiar with, on how he merged himself and Hulk off-screen in a gamma lab. How is gamma useful when merging personalities? Wouldn't he need the aid of a good psychiatrist a lot more? Okay, so if it wasn't obvious from the title of the video, I have my own theory as to what actually happened to the Hulk. And this is as good a time as any to lay it out. Feel free to call me crazy, but there's a high probability that Bruce erased the Hulk personality. Yeah, at least for the time being. We all know the Hulk always comes back. He's a lot like Dracula that way. I have a few reasons for arriving here. First, I ask you, who does Smart Hulk resemble more, Hulk or Bruce? Because whenever I look at him, all I see is a larger, greener version of Mark Ruffalo. This is the most Ruffalo the character has ever looked. Next, we know all Hulk wanted was to be left alone, but those dumb little army men wouldn't leave him be to wander off and live in his cave. And further along the timeline, we see he's developed a child-level understanding of language while on Sakaar, where he enjoyed a morally questionable existence, with the citizens of the trash planet embracing him as their champion. So why would he willingly participate in the suppression of his own identity, when he knows from experience that, even if it were true that Earth despises the Hulk, and he's grown weary of Banner unleashing him as if he were a prime ape Pokemon, there are in fact other options out there, places where he could not only be accepted, but actually find fulfillment. Oh, look at him go, he looks so happy slapping Thor around. One other thing, let's not forget Grandmaster Goldblum was his #1 fan, and if there's a single lesson we've learned from Jeff, it's this one.
Life, finds a way.
Consider this, along with Hulk's swift departure in the Quinjet, his ability to stay hulked out, and barring Natasha's aura traveling halfway around the galaxy, Jay Jaws could have gone off and lived a life of his own. I wasn't left with the impression he cares that much about Banner. Now let's talk about another way Bruce buried the Hulk. When Dr. Banner decided to merge the best parts of himself, soon after his struggle came to an end. And honestly, I think that was a misstep. Struggle is often what makes a superhero compelling, whether that take the form of a battle against a more powerful opponent, or an internal conflict over their own values. Take Superman, a character who's well aware of his own strength. He has the power to rule the world, but every day he gets up, dons his cape, and chooses not to. A part of him recognizes he could eliminate many of the world's ills in a heartbeat. Only in doing so, he would ultimately have to step on people's freedoms. When it comes to Bruce Banner, I've often viewed his struggle as one of control, and the fear of what losing that control might lead to. The poor guy is weighed down by the guilt of those he's hurt or may hurt whenever the Hulk emerges. The sheer strength this creature wields means he could easily injure most fleshlings around him without meaning to. A creature so powerful he could walk through a building before he registered it was there. And it's that same uncontrollable power that's so terrifying to Bruce. Struggle is something everyone can relate to. Maybe yours isn't going on a mindless rampage because your sometimes girlfriend booted you off a ledge. Maybe it's something far more mundane, like knowing ASMR videos exist. Or perhaps it's being forced to watch Taika Waititi's obsession with jokes spiral out of control.
Where am I? We're going to make you watch the entire movie.
Unlock the thing! Take the train off!
Despite my preferred taste for enjoying Hulk in the style of dramatic monster movies, because that shit is right up my alley, while I was working on this video, I started to envision Banner's overall Avengers run from a completely different perspective. Let's begin with the obvious. Most adaptations of Banner and Hulk depict them as two distinct personalities sharing one body. Sure, wrapped up in sci-fi and comic book fantasy, but strip that away, and the closest real-world equivalent we have is dissociative identity disorder, DID, formerly known as multiple personality disorder, affecting roughly 0.1% to 2% of the global population. Those living with this disorder have distinct identities, often referred to as alters, each with their own wants, needs, and sometimes even memories, leading to noticeable memory gaps when one identity takes control. Now, obviously, I'm not a doctor, but parallels to the Hulk are hard to ignore, reinforcing my point from earlier. The idea of Hulk willingly agreeing to full-on integration as being pretty unlikely, at least not without a lot of time and cooperation. You know, sometimes I think these movies don't stick to the source material enough, and other times they are way too comic booky. And if you're hoping for an easy fix to this disorder, there isn't one. You can't just dash off to your local gamma lab. People often spend years in therapy to understand and manage the condition. Some may choose to coexist with their identities, while others may pursue integration, but either path is a gradual process. Unlike the MCU, there was an animated show over 2 decades ago that deserves more praise for its nuanced handling of the Hulk and Banner identities, Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Funny how a TV show some would dismiss as nothing more than a dumb cartoon can often portray these characters with more heart and complexity than a series of movies with budgets reaching into the hundreds of millions. Movies that love to sell themselves as ever so dramatic. In this depiction, Bruce starts out as a fugitive. Still, he's putting others before himself, searching for information about those running the Cube, a supervillain prison created by S.H.I.E.L.D., leading to a fight with the Absorbing Man. That ends badly for poor Carl here.
You stupid!
Although it doesn't end that great for Hulk either, seeing as he ends up captured by S.H.I.E.L.D. However, once inside the facility, we get to see something interesting.
I stopped trying to cure the Hulk a long time ago. I reached out to him. There's a place in this world for the Hulk.
This is our first real look at the more nuanced relationship between Bruce and the Hulk, a departure from most on-screen depictions, including the initial Avengers movie where Bruce is reluctant to release his green alter ego, needing to be pushed into letting him Alright, that's enough tempting the copyright gods. In contrast, the show starts out with a Bruce who already respects the Hulk's existence, going so far as to acknowledge that he can actually be a force for good in the world. We catch a glimpse of this in what leads to his capture. In a moment of hesitation, when a path was open for him to leave the scuffle with S.H.I.E.L.D., he decides to save a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent instead. Personally, I prefer the save he made right before that, when General Ross in his short-sightedness fires this directly into the combat zone, and Hulk in response leaps ahead to intercept, taking the force of the explosion on himself, saving Black Widow and Hawkeye. Hulk could have bounced his way to freedom and ended up on a nice beach somewhere. Instead, he did the stand-up thing, actively choosing to save the lives of people who only moments ago he was mid-combat with. In Breakout Part 2, we're showing Banner and Hulk sharing the same mental space, offering insight into how the two coexist. On the one hand, useful. On the other, potentially aggravating. After all, living with another voice in your head would be challenge enough, without the government constantly hunting you down. In this moment, Banner exists only as a visual cue for the audience. He's not physically sitting in the diner. Coincidentally, this is the same scene where Hulk agrees to go and help what will become the Avengers.
If I do this, then you do something for me.
What?
I stay the Hulk.
Banner agrees to give up his physical presence, a reversal of what we saw at the end of Age of Ultron, when Hulk pieced out in a Quinjet, gobbling up 2 years of Banner's life. Earth's Mightiest Heroes puts Bruce's selflessness front and center, his choice further solidifying his belief in the Hulk, while Hulk staying means he can begin to be seen as a hero, and not as the mindless monster within that Banner chooses to let out, or explodes from beneath the surface whenever the mild-mannered scientist loses control. As the show finds its rhythm, we see a shift, with the Hulk beginning to generally trust Bruce, accepting his advice more often. In the Gamma World arc, when Hawkeye shows up to ask for Bruce's help, Hulk releases Bruce, despite Hawkeye being the one who initially captured Hulk. Later, this happens in reverse. On the one day each month Bruce gets to retake his physical form, he's out fishing when he learns the team needs the other guy, so he willingly gives up that day and goes to help the team. Is this partnership perfect? No. That's the point. It's more grounded and realistic than what happens in the MCU. The show doesn't simply snap away all of Banner's problems. Instead, you see growth and trust slowly develop between these two beings, until a certain equilibrium is achieved. Occasionally, when I'm kicking back, I catch myself wondering, what if the MCU had done something similar? Moments could have played out where Ruffalo's Bruce is meditating, actively communicating with the Hulk, maybe with two floating heads on screen. No, that sounds terrible. Something more subtle, akin to the Venom movies where Venom is a constant voice in Eddie's mind. That's almost perfect. They could have played with reflections, mirrors, glass, water. Maybe Bruce catches a glimpse of Hulk in the reflection, or Hulk sees Bruce staring back at him. Depending on who's physically present, there's always a sense the other is lurking just beneath the surface. The more I think about this, the more I'm convinced a real opportunity was missed out on. Across the 4 Avengers movies, Hulk could have been present more often, establishing him as a part of the team, even when no smashing is required. This would have provided the character with some much-needed agency. Allowing Hulk to be present during quieter moments would have opened the door to a deeper exploration of his personality. What does Hulk think about the team, about himself, about Earth? Does he enjoy blueberry yogurt more than ramen? More importantly, this avenue could have been used to organically build Bruce and the Hulk's relationship. Having both characters arrive at a point where they are willing to share time would have been a great way to show everyone just how far they've come from that initial Hulk movie. Not to mention providing a smoother transition into Smart Hulk, if they still desired to move the character in that direction. Hell, Tony could have whipped up a jumbo pair of elasticized shorts for the Hulk to wear. I genuinely believe this would have been an upgrade, not just for Hulk, but for the team dynamic as a whole. The Avengers are built around the idea of a group of remarkable people, a gamma-irradiated scientist, a billionaire tech head, a former assassin, this guy with a bow and arrow, a super soldier from the past, and this is a god from space.
Don't touch him, he's made of lightning.
All learning to work together.
To fight the battles that we never could.
So why didn't the MCU pave a similar road for the Hulk? It would have made far more sense to find a way to incorporate him as a more consistent member of the team. Over this unpredictable presence, they had no long-term investment in, other than using him as a draw to put butts in seats. Am I overthinking this? Possibly. Either way, this was just
A lot of fans were actually pretty invested in the idea of Natasha with actually either or both of you guys, and now obviously she's with Bruce. What do you guys make of that?
She's a slut.
City lights going high, people moving hustle by, beats bumping through my veins, riding on these urban planes.